Back again. Roll the intro. Well, hello there. I know I've been gone for a while. Life got in the way. Having to do a little bit of more extra work and life kind of got busy. We're feeder fishing today. So far, 7 nice roach. Well, 6 roach and 1 hybrid. I'm not fishing very far out. Maybe about 30 metres, if that. I'm using a mix of Sonia bait, sweet skimmer and black crumb and the usual assortment of particles that you put through, maggots on the hook. Standard feeder fishing. I've got a bite there. That's a better fish. Some of the more keener-eyed observation-wise of you out there might notice something different. I'm not using my my Dutch Master feeder rods. I've had to retire them. It became nearly impossible to get spares for them, to get tips. I ended up speaking to Billy Clark. Was it Billy Clark? Can't remember if it's Billy Clark or not. And he was basically saying that the tips for them now are near enough rocking horse shit to get. So I've had to retire them, which is sad because I genuinely liked the Dutch Master feeder rods. You know, anyone that knows me knows that I like those rods because they were really, really good. So I've got some new rods. I've got the Preston Innovations Distance Master, which is like their version 2.0 to the old Dutch Master. It's like an upgrade. And so far, the differences are... Well, the differences aren't that... There's subtle differences. The eyes in the rod are anti-frap, which means they're set at an angle, which means when you cast them with a big shock leader knot, it doesn't get tangled up. And that's what we're catching. Oh, come on, net, get out of the way. Which is good. The tips start at 2 ounce, which is another thing I like. 2, 3 and 4 ounce. None of this DM 1, 2 and 3. It doesn't really tell you the weight. The DM 1s always were far too light for the rod, so you just ended up snapping them for pleasure. The DM 2s were your standard most days fishing sort of feeder tips, and those were the ones that I used most of the time. Unfortunately, those were the tips that I ended up smashing. Not deliberately, but these things happen, you know, you're fishing, these things happen, shit happens. So I've got the Distance Master. I've got the 3.8 meter, which is an 80 gram rod, and I've got the next one up, which is like a 100 gram rod. So I've got 2 of them, and I'm toying with the idea of getting the heavier one again for when I have to do big chucks on a river. But so far, this is the first time fishing with it today. So far it's been okay. I've enjoyed it. Although I'm not exactly bagging up on tons of fish, but I'm catching nice roach and skimmers. So let's see what else the day can do. That was a short one, very, very short. See, talking shit to you and not concentrating. I'll just leave it in. See what happens. We're on the upper Loch Earn stretch. This is the sort of stretch where you might get a tench. But it's not something you go out deliberately to fish for. You'd need to do some pre-baiting and some raking of a swim first of all. But it's a Sunday. We've got on and off showers. So I'm kind of hoping that on and off showers keeps wankers and jet skis away. But so far I can't complain. Well, I could, but nobody cares, so what's the fucking point?
Just then.
Lightning. That's not good. We don't want to be fishing in lightning.
A few moments later.
I get asked questions a lot recently, like where have I been and blah blah blah, what happened to the vlogs and blah blah. Well, I worked it out during the winter. I roughly was doing 2.5 days a week the entire winter fishing for pike. I ended up putting thousands of miles on my van. Not that I cared about the van, but the diesel had to be paid for, the van has to be paid for. And the best I could do was a handful of fish that were about £19.
Got it? Best fish you had, 19?
Yeah. And it kind of burnt me out. But I have been fishing. I've done some days fishing with Cecil, done some days fishing on the carp ponds. Show you a little tip of that now.
The bigger fish I got bigger than any of yours.
16.8 kilos. Good day's fishing. I enjoyed that. That was a good day's fishing. I had 40 carp for, I think it was just shy of 17 kilos or something like that. It was a good day. It was a Sunday. So I have been fishing. I just haven't been making vlogs because I needed a break. There we go. Smaller fish again. Oh, okay. Problem is right here there's a bank of grassweed, or like right at the edge of the lilies. So when you're catching anything, you're having to bring it through this wall of grass, and you just have to be a bit ignorant to pull them through it. Unfortunately, the bigger fish use this to their advantage and just kind of bump themselves off. The smaller fish come in like that, covered in weed, and that's a little perch, by the way. So I'm going to clear the 6 tons of. See, it's that sort of weed there, just a grass type of weed. And because it's a perch, the hooks are going to be down there its arsehole. Got a lovely little perch. We're up to fish number 17.
1 hour later.
We're up to 23 fish now. Mixture of skimmers, hybrids, roach and perch on the feeder. And I've lost quite a few of them in the weeds in front of me, just the way it goes. And every now and then there's a big shower of rain comes through. The last one that came through had lightning, so I had to not fish, because that would be my fucking luck. Cast out a rod and end up fucking riding the lightning. And if it wasn't the showers and the lightning, it's wankers and boats like the dude in his big cruiser that went past here at warp speed. The day that you don't have your Black Widow catapult and ball bearings, these sort of things happening. It's my own fault I didn't come prepared. And 5 ounce leads and the spod rod still in the van. This sort of venue, this sort of place, normally if I was really paying attention, I'd have arrived down, I would have mixed up maybe 4 kilos of dry ground bait, put a load of particle in it, and used a big swim feeder, like the size of a Coke can, and spotted it out into where I was going to fish. That way you've got bait in there, and then I would have set up where like the seat box and all that sort of stuff to get comfortable, and let that initial hit of particles and ground bait attract whatever's there. But it seems when we get the rain go through, it seems to slow, it seems to kill the bites. But that's how normally if I was really paying attention, I'd have been here at first light. I would have mixed the very first thing I would have done once I got into the van was mix up ground bait. I also need to buy a new ground bait drill because the one I have has finally died. I done the charged the 2 batteries up last night, and the machine said that they were charged fully. This morning I went to whisk the ground bait up and the batteries were empty. I can't complain. I've had that drill since like the mid 2000s. It's just purely a ground bait whisk. I mean, it's took a bit of a kicking over the years, so I can't really argue. I think it was like 30 quid, so I'm not going to lose my temper with it. The responsible adult for the day is Steve. Steve's over here, he's doing some waggler fishing. It's always good to spend the day talking shit and having a laugh. I was reading in one of the newspapers, there was a female army officer who apparently was super fit physically, and she is ending up suing the Ministry of Defence for, I think it's £2 million in compensation, because she got fucked up doing a combat fitness test. It asks wider questions about women in the military. Now, before I get women going, fucking sexist bastard, I do think women should be in the military. I do think there is a place for women in the military. You know, medics are a crack and roll. You know, I don't think that women physically would make a good infantry soldier. I know there's like a push to kind of push women to be like the first Marine female and first para regiment female and all of that nonsense. You know, I think it's more like a status symbol, like look at me, I'm the first woman that's a parachute jumper and all that sort of stuff. If she's doing it, then she's the same standard as the men. Then fair play, crack on, you've earned it. But if it's been feminized to lower the standard, then clearly it's not the standard. I worked with women in the military, and you know, I worked with girls that were single mums. I worked with girls that were married women, single women, and I'm going to tell you a story about two different ones. There was one single mum, and her husband, the relationship ended. These things happen. She never used the fact that she was a single mum looking after kids stop her doing any sort of duties, any sort of guard duties or duty, clerks or anything like that there. She was always up for it, never had a problem. When her name was pulled out of the hat and she was told she was going to deploy, I think it was down to Mount Pleasant in the Falklands, she never complained. She went away and did her 4 months or 5 months, whatever long a tour was, and she came back and life went on. She was one of those people that was, dependable. Cracking example of a female in the military. And then there was the other one. The other one that used her kids as like an excuse to dodge everything. Now, she wasn't a single mother, she was a married woman, so it was her and her husband. And we used to nickname her the poison dwarf in the office. This is the delightful woman that when swine flu was the big epidemic that was doing the rounds, her kids got the swine flu. And then obviously she got the swine flu. Now at that time, if you got the swine flu, the medics and the doctors basically said, phone the medics, stay in your room, don't leave your fucking room because it's very contagious. This woman thought she knew better than the medical experts and decided to come into work even though she was told not to. And 3/4 of the office then went down with swine flu. Myself included. Swine flu was fucking horrible because you would run to the toilet and you didn't know what to put your arse there or your face in the toilet because it was squirting out of both ends. It was fucking horrendous. In the space of a fortnight I lost like 3 stone. So whilst it was good for the farewell to man boobs and all that sort of stuff, it was kind of shit to be a human being. There's nothing like shining out a kidney to fucking make you think this is crap. But eventually we all got back to normal and we're sitting in the office, and this woman, because at that point in time she was a higher rank than me, she decided to use her rank to kind of almost bully. I wasn't having that. Didn't like that at all. So that's an example of a shit female in the military. Should women be doing combat roles? If they're qualified and they're physically fit to do them, crack on. Well done. But there's a big ask. There's a reason that the Marines and the Paras class themselves as an elite regiment, because their basic training, it's up there with the fucking hardest in the world. One example, the American Ranger Regiment is styled after the Royal Marine Commandos here in the UK. The American Ranger Regiment is like their special forces. It's like their special forces regiment. They then have like more special forces, Obviously, the Navy have their SEALs. The American Army has like Delta and the Rangers. They sent over Rangers, like guys that are warriors, American warriors, and they sent them to Livingston in the south coast of England, and they had them do the commando tests that every Royal Marine Commando has to do, and they struggled. Physically they were able to do them, but in the times that they were set, they didn't really get there. They weren't really making that time. So that tells you how hard the tasks are. I'm fucking hats off to those guys that do that. I do think that our military is being let down by the civil servants at Ministry of Defence headquarters. We've had an army commander resign because they're, usual sort of thing, no kit, telling us that we have to reduce numbers, usual sort of bullshit. Then we had another story in the media where a lieutenant colonel who'd served in operational duties, had a decorated career, was eventually kicked out of the army because he stated the fucking obvious by saying women don't have a penis. And of course, this sort of time of fucking cloud world, you can't tell the truth because it offends the fucking always offended. Sort of shit makes my piss itch. It's fucking horrible. I'm all for people living and let living. I personally don't care what you do to any human being in the bedroom, as long as it's consensual and it's not with a child. The whole push to fucking transgender children, that's just evil. That is just evil. To turn around to a child and allow the child's fantasy to kind of say, yes, we're going to chop off body parts and castrate them, that's just evil. It's wicked. And eventually, when all the dust settles in about maybe 10 or 15 years, I can see the doctors that did all this being treated as the same way the doctors who performed lobotomies are treated, and the same people that believe in eugenics are treated. There's a school not far from me where one of the children identifies as a fox. No shit. Wears a fucking foxtail. Identifies as a fox. And the story goes, the school is terrified of saying anything to her because her parents are itching to make some money out of the law to sue them. What sort of parent buys their child a sex toy with a tail? It's not a clip-on tail. It's a fucking butt plug that sticks up their ass. What sort of parent does that? Wrong'uns. Sort of parent that needs their hard drive and their computer checked. I do believe the next push from the LGB, HD, fucking whatever, 1, 2, 3 pound sign community, the next push will be to normalise shit like bestiality and incest and sex with children. That'll be the next big push. They're already normalising the speech where you can't call them pedophiles because that's offensive. They have to be called minor attracted person. You know what I call them? Cunts who need fed feet first through a wood chipper. Straight to the wood chipper. My attitude to this actually got more I got less tolerant when the birth of my child, my daughter, came along. You know, it was we knew when the wife was having the baby. We knew we were having a baby. Didn't know what sex it was going to be. Frankly, I didn't care. I just wanted the healthy baby and my wife to sort of come through the, you know, the birthing process with as little damage as possible. And out came my daughter. And in an instant, there was like a switch in my head that said, this little human now has to be protected. And that's now my job. And I can imagine things like, you know, like the scumbags that would do dirty things and bad things to a child. And how that when they are caught, they're only getting slaps on the wrists by the judges. No. I think scumbags like that there need to be either jailed so they can't leave jail and cause any more damage to people, or castrated so they physically can't do shit to people. Or option C is the wood chipper. I'm a great fan of the fucking wood chipper. Just brrrr, no more problem. The ground gets fertilised, problem disappears, everyone's a winner. You can even make a game show out of it on BBC. Vote for the pedo that's going to go into the wood chipper this week. Oh, enough rants. I need something to drink.
One eternity later.
We're up to 32 fish now. I'm going to show you because I'm going to get asked, you know, what sort of rig I'm using. So here is the rig for today. If I can unhook the bait from the... just you sit there. Right. I have a little backstop rubber bead thing put on here. A little sliding feeder bead. This is just to stop it going too far. I have another bead. Then I have a 3-inch twisted loop to a 3 foot, say 3 foot, 0.18 reflow fluorocarbon hook length to a size 12 Gamakatsu LS2210B bream hook. I'm using the Cresta feeder. These are one of the jailbreak feeders that has a closed lid, so you can pack the feeder full of ground bait or ground bait particles and then plug it with ground bait at the bottom, and it does the business. It does the business. Right. Feeder fishing is important to have a marker on your far bank. There's a dead tree right in front of me, so just nice and easy. Hits the clip, goes down to where you want it, and then boom, facets on the bottom. And the bites have been pretty good with the worm. They've been pretty savage. I'm losing the bigger fish in the lilies because they're just going straight to the lilies. I'm nearly sure, as Steve was watching as well, I nearly sure lost the bream in the lilies because it was plodding about like a big bream. But you know, you're fishing with a size 12 hook that's kind of like a fine wire hook. Oh Jesus, that's a better fish. That was a proper bite. This just feels like a better fish. lilies. Come out of the lilies, you prick. Where's this one going? It's off. Fucking lilies! That was a better fish. Straight into the lilies on my side. And well, you see what happens. Not sure if I went over the ground bit. It's a mix of. It's not a mix. It's Sonia Bates sweet skimmer with black crumb put through it. There's a bit of moisture on the lens. We must have had a bit of rain there. Hold on. There we go. That's you all cleaned up. Baitwise, I'm putting on a worm. They're not big worms. They're just little Dembridina worms. I think with the Dembridina worms, the smell in the water gets the fish going. There you go. A worm tipped with a maggot. It's like fucking steak and chips to Ibrahim. Right, let's get it out there. See if we can get fish number 33. Fish number 33. And here we have Wanker on the jets, Wanker on a boat pulling a water skier. Slow the fuck down! I don't think he heard me. I'll have to work on projection of voice. Sorry if anyone was listening with like headphones on. That's bound to just fucking sent you daft. That prick buzzed down this way a couple of times and then back up again, so hopefully that's him fucked off. Massive wake, just what we need. I'm really going to have to buy or replace the bands on my catapult. Humans. Yeah, that's what we need. Some fucking cunt racing through a fucking swim at full pelt. It's just gone 5:10. I'm thinking call it a day. I've had 44 or 45 or something fish. 44. There was a couple that were smashed by pike on the way in, so they are no longer with us. So they will be going to the big freezer in the garage. Waste not, want not, and all that sort of good stuff. Waste not, want not. I had a couple of decent hybrids, some nice ones. That's the first time using the Preston Distance Master fishing feeder rod, and I'm impressed. Lots of backbone, lots of power. You know, the power goes right the way through to the second section. So when I wasn't even loading the cast up, I was throwing a 40 gram feeder. So it wasn't a big feeder, it was just one of these jailbreak feeders, 40 grams. And it was just a flick. It wasn't loading up a cast, it wasn't wiring it up, and it wasn't even something like that there to cast. It was just a push it forward. And I didn't miss, well, I missed the clip a couple of times, but one of them talking to you and talking shit, so that's your fault. Yes, it is. And the other was when we started to get thunder and lightning, so I had other things on my mind. But let's get packed away and see what we have. I'm going to say about maybe 10 kilos, about that. So we'll see how far I'm either off or on when it comes to weigh the fish. So got a new waist sling. Got the Preston's Innovations waist sling. It's more so for the carp fishing, but it'll do for this sort of fishing too. It's like a bucket that stands up by itself. It's pretty good. Let's see what we got. That's a good one. Piece of shit. $15.3. £15.3. £30. £30 of fish.
30 plus.
Yeah.
15 is 32.
Yeah.
Need to show a couple of them.
Hmm?
Show a couple of them hybrids. They're beauties.
Some really nice hybrids. I got 3 really good ones. There we go. Not bad for a day. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. See you all next time.